Welcome to episode 6 of Under the Volcano with me, Nigel Simmons.
And me, Ian Wallace.
And coming up this week, we have the day I was in the back of a cab with Rolf Harris, why Jimmy Savile loved working in a Norfolk morgue, and why Ian Wallace is still in Bali. Not to mention, of course, the time Big George fought his way up the hill to beat up the pikeys, only to have his balls blown off by a shotgun. But first... Thank you. And now a word from our sponsors.
Island Brewing. That's a beautiful drop.
That is a beautiful drop. And again, we are drinking a mixture this week of Island Brewing.
It's like a cocktail.
Sorry, we're not mentioning that word, are we, yet?
Oh, sorry.
Sorry. So, yeah, we're drinking Island Brewing's light beer, which is fantastic. We've run out again. So, Ty and the marketing department at Island Brewing, send more beer! Because we've run out, yeah, and that's why we're also supplementing it this week with some beautiful bintang. But first, let's do some feedback. So feedback this week, we had a few great comments on our YouTube channel, and thank you for commenting. It's always enlightening for a few regular people. We love it. Last week we spoke about. Bethany Hamilton, the Australian surfer who got attacked by a shark and had her arm ripped off. So we had one feedback from our glorious, perfectly formed, small but perfectly formed producer, Mr. Fleety, who's in the studio with us today. And he wrote on our YouTube channel, fact checkers are in the audience. He pointed out that Bethany Hamilton is actually not Australian. She's from Hawaii. So we apologise for that, of course, but we can also maybe make a mention that Australia is, 51st state of America? I don't know how that works.
Could be. I don't know.
Yeah.
I've never been.
You've never been to Australia?
No.
Seriously?
No.
Oh, you should go.
No.
It's cool. If you like spiders.
I'm too old for all that.
If you like spiders and, snakes and shit that kills you. No.
Fuck it, I'll stay here.
We had, last week we were a bit worried about the Sanur Weekly, and we're going to go into our section this week.
This week from the Sanur Weekly.
So I'm happy to see that the Sanur Weekly is back on track, because last week it didn't appear, or at least they changed their publication dates. So it was a bit worrying. I wasn't sure what was going on there.
Resplendent with Staples.
Yes, Resplendent with Staples. It's a great publication. They've got. We sent over extra staples.
Yeah. And
that seems to have done the trick.
It does, because voila, we have a newspaper.
And it is a newspaper. Look,
it is.
It's printed on A3.
It makes a sound.
It does, makes a sound. Look. Yeah. So it's printed on A3 basic photocopy paper. It's in black and white. It's stapled. It's maybe 20 pages. We do love it. They do a great job of going to the local news and translating it into their English or Australian. So this week I thought, again, slim pickings. I don't know what's going on. I think all the Russians have gone into hiding, because usually there's a mention of some Russian who's been slagging off the island, who's been caught by New Atlantic and then deported by immigration. But this week...
rightly so.
Oh, well, rightly so, absolutely, yeah. Yeah, Nostravi. But this week they led with the story about the groundbreaking new Bali LRT system.
Yes.
Which is a light rail transit system, scheduled for September.
That's a train in English.
That's a train, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's an overhead train, I think, and an underground train.
Underground, overground.
Right, underground, overground.
Sort of wobbling free.
Yeah. It looks like the long-planned light rail transit system in Bali is getting closer to becoming a reality, they wrote. Yeah. The Indonesian Minister of Transportation, Budi Karya Sumadi, has officially announced that the groundbreaking ceremony for Bali's LRT system will take place in September 2024. So that's this year.
7 months
in 7 months. So groundbreaking means what? They get a shovel.
Yeah.
and then they get some
Spades in
digging
the ground.
Spades in the ground, isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah. And after that, they're going to be digging a big fucking hole.
Yep.
And it's apparently going to be built by South Koreans.
Oh, really?
Yeah, the Irish of Asia. Well, they are. The Japanese hate them. They are. They are. I'm sorry if you're Korean out there and watching this and you're offended, but the Japanese hate you, and everybody else considers you the Irish of Asia. And if you don't know what that means, I'm sorry, but it means that you're good at tunnels digging and
making shit soap operas, which my wife watches all the time.
That's one thing that is not shit about South Korea.
Really?
Yeah, no, those music videos that they do.
Oh, the music videos, yeah.
They're good.
Soap operas are shit.
I don't know. I don't speak Korean, but
Nor do I.
all I can say is bot, which I think means what, you know.
Right.
And
Apa?
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Bot. That's the only Korean that I actually know. So there we go. But the South Koreans are going to get busy building the canals. I mean, the tunnels for the.
With their wheelbarrows.
With their wheelbarrows and stuff. And it's going to, I mean, if it does actually happen, and that is a big if, I think.
Of course.
It's going to change shit in Bali.
Oh, absolutely. No, if it comes off, it'll be fantastic. It'll be a game changer.
Well, I don't know. Will it? Is it good? Because why we love Bali, you know, we love Bali because it's not really part of the real world, is it? It's like a sort of, you know, when I came here, and we'll get into that.
Yeah.
But, you know, it's a sort of palm trees, you know, it's a great culture and stuff. It's not big buildings. They've always had the limit on the building height, so there's no building allowed above...
60 feet, you know,
well,
height
it's
of a coconut tree.
Height of a coconut tree, but
yeah.
that, you know, it's just strange because that can actually, if you get a Lombok...
growing.
Yeah, if you get a Lombok, those coconut trees are a lot higher than they are in Bali, you know. Anyway, they sort of set it at the height of a coconut tree.
Yeah.
And, so we sort of came for that. I don't know how it's going to fit in. And yes, of course, the traffic shit. We know that, and we all hate it. But a train system in Bali.
But it seems it's all going to be concentrated on the south of the island, where we are.
Yeah.
So it's not going to involve or include the rest of the island, which is quite big.
Well, it's going from basically the airport I see
Up to Seminyak.
Through Seminyak and then through to the east coast of east or west coast of Bali, west coast,
Right. Yeah.
So I guess then it will connect with some other bigger plan to get infrastructure across Indonesia. But I don't know, man. It's not. It's not an immediate solution to Bali's massive traffic problems, says the Sanur Weekly, and its construction is more likely to add more bottlenecks to the island roads for years.
What, everybody getting to the train station?
Well, not just that, no, because they're going to be shutting all the other roads while they're digging the bloody tunnels, you know. Yeah. So, yeah. I mean, just on that, you know, why... why trains in Bali and why there are not trains in Bali and why they're not big buildings in Bali and why we, you know, love this island and why we came to this island, you know, because of that. I mean, that's always what attracted me, you know, was the idea of this sort of green, you know, paradise. And, yeah. How about you? What brought you to this?
What brought me to Bali? Women.
Oh dear. All right. Okay.
And so I came out here for a little holiday a couple of years ago.
Right.
And then went home back to England, sold everything,
right,
which wasn't a lot, or gave most of it away, actually,
right,
and moved out here.
Okay. So when you say women, I mean a particular woman, or did you meet somebody?
Indonesian women.
Well, Indonesian women, obviously.
Plural.
Balinese or just like...
everything.
From everything. You dog.
I'm a slag.
You slag. Fuck yeah.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
So you came out here and, I mean, I know Archie came out first, right? Your son. So he was here and you visited him.
So I came out to see him.
Right.
Yeah. And just fell in love with the place. Seriously, I mean, the people, the women, just everything about it.
Yeah.
And I was in a fortunate position to, change my life, which it did.
I think the changing life thing is the biggest thing. You know, people always say when they're on holiday, oh, you know what? I'd really love to live here, don't they? They come on holiday and they say that. They say,
People say that about Cromer.
no, they don't.
No, they do, though.
Do they?
Yeah. People from Bali say that about Cromer.
Oh, I can't believe that's true. Yeah, but God, people don't say I want to live in Cromer,
No,
do
no.
they? No. So we come on holiday to somewhere tropical. Excuse me. Then it could be anywhere in the world.
Yeah.
And you go, oh man, I could really, I've got my shit job at home, working in some cubicle in a Microsoft office in Reading.
Or driving a fucking lorry.
Or driving a lorry as you
Yeah.
do, and not that I've ever driven a lorry. But, I'd love to live here, But you know what? No one ever does move, do they? They go back to their jobs,
Yeah,
their mortgage,
yeah,
and then they
yeah.
go back to their life and their sort of families and their connected, bits and pieces, and then they forget it until the next August when they
Yeah,
can go
no, it's
somewhere
true.
else.
It's true.
So actually going on holiday, I mean, I came here on holiday and I actually stayed, so that's a big deal, man.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And when was that? How long ago?
So that was in 1992.
Wow.
Yeah. So I've
22
passed,
years. 32 years.
I've passed my 30-year
Sure.
honeymoon in
Yeah,
Bali.
yeah.
Yeah, now I'm
And there's
regretting every
me.
day since the 30-year anniversary, and I want to go back to Cromer. Live in Cromer.
Yeah, live in Cromer.
Give me
Go
some,
to Felbrick Hall for an afternoon out and a picnic.
Exactly. So yeah, missed the beer, but no.
Yeah.
I mean, so I came on holiday. Literally, I was in Singapore
Right.
and working in a pretty good corporate magazine job and all that. And I came on holiday to Bali with my then girlfriend Jilly. Shout out to Jilly if you're watching. And I went to Penastanan in Ubud, and man, it was just the most mind-blowing thing.
Yeah, I can
Because-
imagine it would have been.
Because you've got, there was rice fields. It was a rural sort of beautiful. There was some rice fields, and then there was the volcano, man.
Yeah.
The sky cleared, the clouds cleared, and all I just saw was this enormous volcano looking at us. And then there was the kind of guys in the fields with the buffalo, and then there was the temple and the gamelan, and it was all going off. The sun was shining, and I stayed in this beautiful little cottage, called Penastanan Bungalows. I don't know if it's still there. Probably not.
right.
And I remember sitting there at the side of the swimming pool. It was a square swimming pool.
Uh-huh.
And there was this bloke in there. He turned up, and he put on, he had these little Speedos on. And we'll get to my Jimmy Savile story later. But he put his he had his Speedos on,
Yeah.
and he had some goggles. And he got in the water, and he had a long beard, a bit like you, And he got in the water, and then he started swimming around the edge of the pool, It was
Right.
a small 10-meter
Okay.
by 10-meter square pool with those beautiful bathroom tiles they used to.
Yeah, yeah.
The blue ones.
Yeah.
They used to come do all those swimming pools in those beautiful, garish,
seen 'em.
horrible blue tiles, right? But the water was clean and pristine. And he got in. But when he got to the edge, he was swimming a crawl like that. He was swimming a crawl, And when he got to the edge, instead of stopping and turning, he stopped paddling with this arm,
Right.
his left arm, and he just continued paddling with his right arm so that he could sort of propel himself around the corner.
Right.
And then when he got to the other corner, he would do exactly the same. So I just watched this guy swimming fucking circles in a square pool, and I just thought, this is the place for me.
Yeah.
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 And there was the volcano.
Yeah.
And,
Nice. Nice.
Under the volcano we are. But
We are.
I met the guy later in a pub because I asked the guy the kid that ran the bungalow. I said, "Oh, look, where does a sort of a young city boy go for a beer in Ubud?"
Yeah.
And he said, "Oh, pup, you must go to the Beggars Bush."
Right.
So he sent me down to the Beggars Bush, and that was on the. If anybody's been to Ubud, it's used to be on the Penastanan Bridge. There's two bridges in Penastanan. One's the old one, falling down, and one's the sort of new one. But it's right there over a beautiful valley. And you used to go up like 5 or 6 or 7 or 8,000 steps, it felt like some days. And right at the top of it, there was this sort of nest, this sort of tiny bar, And I walked in there that day, and all I heard for a start was some very old blues playing from a vinyl record player in the corner.
Right.
and it was
Not German pop then.
There wasn't German synth pop, which I know you
Right.
love.
Yes.
Yeah. And there was there's no one in there apart from the sort of two tired-looking Balinese boys behind the bar. You know,
Right.
so I walked in. They had draft bintang. Curious that I would find this music playing, this incredible sort of
Wow.
old blues from the 30s, sort of from a
Right.
record player.
Yeah,
There it
yeah.
was, spinning around. And then I noticed they had there was a buffalo horn on the wall, and they had something called Ring the Bull. Did you ever have that? I think that was a thing in Norfolk pubs occasionally before darts. So you'd get a bit of string from the roof,
Right.
and you put a brass ring on a bull's nose ring on the bottom of
Yeah.
it, and you stick a horn on the opposite wall, and then you'd have to swing the ring and try and get it onto the horn.
Yeah, no, I never took that many drugs.
No, well, it wasn't a drug thing. No, it was no drug thing. It was just an old. It just felt like an old
Right.
English pub.
No,
It was an
never,
old English
never.
pub, and it was called the Beggars Bush.
We had bar billiards.
Yeah, it was pre-bar billiards. Yes. This predated bar billiards and Skittles and all that. It predated all that.
Darts.
I was just very curious. And I
Yeah.
thought, who the fuck has put this together? Because clearly in Ubud, 1992, and in this sort of shack on the top of a valley, with the swallows swirling round, called the Beggars Bush, with jazz music from the 30s playing on vinyl in the corner, and Ring the Bull with draft bintang.
blues
I thought,
music a minute
it's
ago.
got to be an Englishman.
Right.
Got to be an Englishman. And sure enough, up came the steps, came this sort of character who looked a bit like Lord Lucan.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
That's where he went.
Yes, that's what I thought.
Yeah.
So I thought, it's Lord Lucan. Okay.
He wasn't riding Sugar, was he?
No. And he had this sort of a beautiful kind of, his hair was beautifully sort of, put together. And he was about, I guess, it would have been about 60 something.
Yeah.
And he had a sort of moustache, nice moustache and all that. And he had this dress shirt on, like this white English, dress shirt,
Yeah.
pleated at the front and all that. And then from the waist down, he was wearing a sarong with the gold saput, they call
Okay.
it, the
Yeah.
covering,
Yeah.
and a sash.
Yeah.
And on his head, he had the Balinese headdress. I forget the name of it. Forgive me, I forget the name of that. And he walked in, and he walked up to the bar, and he said in English to the barman, he said, "Give me a fucking beer," in a very posh accent. "Give me a fucking beer," like that. And I thought, okay, that looks like he could be the owner.
Could be.
So I sort of after I sat there in the corner on these old chairs that had armrests sort of covered in. It felt like it was a bit sticky,
Yeah.
And it'd been used. The bar had been used,
Sure.
So he stood there at the bar. This guy in his half Balinese and his English dress suit with gold cufflinks, also.
Right, yeah,
And
yeah.
and he took a draft of his ale, and I worked up the courage, and I got up and I went up to say hi. I said, I'm Nigel. Is this your bar? And he looked at me and he said, "It might be." Like that. And I thought, okay. He wasn't openly friendly,
No.
And I said, "Well, I'm just here on holiday, and I just arrived, and it seems like an amazing place. And how long have you been here? And what's going on? And all the rest of it." And he just looked at me in silence, in sort of slight horror that he'd been approached again by another tourist, and and I said, "I'm Nigel. So what was your name?" And he said, "Victor." I went, "Oh, Victor, very nice to meet you, Victor. Victor, can I buy you a beer?" He says, "Sure." He said, "Buy me a fucking beer." So I got the barman. I said, two beers, please, barman. And they arrived on the thing, and I picked up mine, and he went, "Cheers!" And then he poured the whole fucking thing over his head. Like that. He just poured it over his head.
Brilliant.
And I thought, what the fuck is going on here?
Come home.
I've come home. I've come home, And it turned out, of course, it's Victor Mason, the legendary Victor Mason of the Hash House Harriers, of course, which is a drinking running.
There you go.
group.
Yeah.
And what they do,
Which I know about.
Explained, what they do at the Hash House Harriers is they do have this ritual where people buy you beers, you pour it over your head.
Yes,
That's the sort
I've
of
been
thing.
involved.
However,
Done it.
I'd never heard of the Hash House Harriers at that time. So all I witnessed was this sort of English Lord Lucan bloke, who I bought a beer for, pour it over his fucking head, in the middle of a bar. And I just thought, what the fuck? And then there was silence, and we didn't speak. The music was kind of playing, who put the Benzodrine, Mr. Sultan, like that. And it was fucking surreal. So I was pretty sold on it at that point. And so I went back to I stayed there. He left, and I stayed and drank a bunch of beers. And we went back to the little bungalow in the rice fields. Absolutely gorgeous. And then we stayed and watched the sun come up, and we watched the sunset first. Reflecting on its marble sort of effect on the rice fields. Which were filled with water. Perfect. Stunning. Swallows, all that. Anyway, I woke up in the morning and thought, I need to go back to that fucking bar. Yeah. So. The next day, and I'm abridging things here a bit, but the next day, so I went back and I'm sitting there in the bar, and it was several levels, and it was a bit early, so I hadn't gone up to the top, the Erie, the Beggars Bush, and I was sitting there in the main restaurant. But there was no one else in the restaurant, and Mick Jagger walked in.
Oh, really?
Yeah, with this girl, and I guess it would have been his daughter. I mean, it certainly wasn't his wife, and he sat down. And I was on my own, So he sat down, Mick Jagger sat down at this table and with this girl and ordered a juice or whatever, And I was trying to be cool, but there was fucking Mick Jagger, two tables across from me, like that. And I'm like, if I ordered a beer, and I just can't believe this, right? So I'm sitting there, and there's Mick and his girl, and me, and the waiter comes up, and he orders, So, when the drinks come, Mick says to the waiter, the Balinese waiter, he says, "Is Victor around?" Like that.
Because that's exactly how he speaks.
Brilliant, isn't it?
It's like Mike Yarwood is in the room. Yeah.
Is Victor? I can't do Mick Jagger, but. Yeah, he said, "Is Victor around?" And of course, I'd met Victor the night before. So the Balinese waiter says, Pat Mick. Call him Pat Mick, like Mr. Mick. So he'd obviously knew him. Yeah. And he said, "Let me go check." So he runs off, this waiter, right? And we're just sitting there, and he's gone for like 5 minutes or something. Sort of silence, and birds are tweeting and all the rest of it. Mick Jagger. Me, and
tumbleweed going through
Jay
the bar.
Jagger sitting there, tumbleweed going through the bar. Nothing like middle of the day on a Wednesday, in Ubud, right? Yeah. And eventually, finally, the waiter comes back, and he looks at Mick and he says, "Sorry, Pat Mick, Victor says he's busy." Right. I fucking fell off my chair. I swear to God, that's a true story. Yeah. So. Just reminded me of, because you've heard that joke, right, about Frank Sinatra comes into the restaurant. It was literally the joke. Frank is sitting over in the corner, and the guy that sort of knows him says, "Look," he goes over and says to Frank, "It would really help me out with this girl I've got,
Yes,
If you could say hello when I come past, when we come past, we go out or something." So he says, "Sure, no problem." So he goes, sits down, and then they go out and he says, and Frank goes, "Hey, Laurie, how are you, man?" And the guy goes, "Fuck off, Frank, can't you see I'm busy?"
That's right, I know.
It was exactly like that.
Brilliant.
It was exactly like that. So Mick Jagger sat there, so Victor was too busy to come up and see his mate, Mick. So,
there you go.
Fuck.
There you go.
Yeah. I'm absolutely, no word of a lie. That was what happened.
So did you meet Rolf Harris in Bali?
So you mentioned, okay, so just to explain to the readers, the viewers, that because you brought up Rolf Harris, right? Because we haven't mentioned
him. You mentioned him first.
Did I mention him?
Yes.
Oh, right, okay, yeah. No, Rolf Harris, talking about famous people, I met in Hong Kong when I was working on the equivalent of the Sanur Weekly. It's called the South China Morning Post, owned by Rupert Murdoch. It didn't have stables, as I recall, but it was a newspaper, proper.
Shameless person worked for Murdoch.
So I was working for Murdoch, and I got sent on a job, as you do.
Right.
And it was to accompany Rolf Harris around.
Okay.
He'd come over to Hong Kong for fuck knows what.
Nefarious reasons.
Well, I imagine he must have had a show going on or something.
Yeah.
This is even before he'd come to Bali, And so I go there and I meet Rolf Harris, and we go, surprise, surprise, we go to a school, don't we?
Okay.
So there's me, Rolf Harris, at this school with these...
So you're in the back of a cab?
No, not yet. So it's with some very young children, and he's got his little ukulele.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
Yeah,
Didn't he?
he did that singing fucking
Yeah.
shit, didn't he? He was
Yeah.
like that. And I mean, he was just, and entertained the kids, and they were like, yeah. Anyway, so then after the thing had finished, because it was out in the outlying areas of Hong Kong,
Right.
we had to get a cab back, and it just made sense that we shared a cab. So I shared a cab in the back of a cab with Rolf Harris.
Right.
Yeah.
Did he start painting?
He did a bit of painting with his show with the girls.
Not in the back
Sorry,
of the cab.
boys and girls,
Yeah.
the kids, and he'd done that, and then we got in the back. In fact, Tom literally sat next to Rolf Harris in the back of the cab, and
But he didn't start painting when you were in the back of the
no. He just sat there looking weird. It was weird. I mean, I have to say, he was weird in that way that, your old biology teacher
Yeah.
at school was weird,
Yeah.
that you knew there was something not quite right, it was a bit fucking funny, a bit awkward around adults, and we had a chat, and I forget what we had a chat about, but it just seemed, all I remember is the sense of it being very, very, very strange. He was a very, very strange guy, almost like a sort of on the spectrum, if you like a, not autistic, but he was just odd in
Yeah.
that way that,
Yeah.
your RE teacher or your maths teacher or whoever that weird teacher was at school, the
Yeah.
PE teacher, just sort of
Yeah, PE teacher.
didn't really fit in with normal life. He was just fucking weird.
Yeah.
And this is all before the scandals, of course. But
Blimey.
I should have clocked it right then. I should have written the story right then. This
Should've.
guy's a
You-
paedophile.
Yeah. Yeah.
So there we are.
Look, it's
Funny.
gruesome.
Famous people. It's
Yeah.
funny to meet them, isn't it?
Yeah.
Have
Who
you
else?
met any?
No.
Oh my god.
No.
What are you in up to?
What, this week?
Yeah.
Well, I went to a med.
Ahmed.
Ahmed.
Okay,
yeah,
very
yeah,
nice.
2
Yeah.
nights.
And on your bike?
No, went up in the car.
Oh, you went on the car.
Because my bike has been in dry dock
Okay.
in the sticker emporium.
Oh, the sticker emporium. Yes, I
Being-
did see.
being
Yeah.
wrapped.
We've got a picture here of Ian's bike, current bike, after it's been to the sticker emporium. There it is. You can see it's been very garishly wrapped. I'm going to have to say, in some yellow. It looks. I don't know, man. What is it?
Well, what I'm trying to do, now I'm married, I'm trying to pretend that I'm gay.
I see. Okay, well, carry on there.
And I decided that my NMAX was boring as silver.
Yeah.
I've never been a great fan of Japanese stuff, but
Right.
I've always loved the Japanese style of various things.
Well, people talk about Jap style, but that isn't what comes to mind.
Well, no, this
Jap
is-
style these days means like a sort of brown leather
Yeah,
seat
yeah,
with a
exactly,
cool tank
exactly.
and all that.
Yeah.
What you've done, I don't know. You seem to have taken an NMAX, which is a pretty sporty little step through,
It's a lovely thing.
and you painted it in the colours of some sort of Formula
It's sort of
fucking one.
1970s Yamaha.
No, but
colours.
it's at your age.
Yeah, I
it's
know.
a bit over the top.
I'm reliving my misspent youth.
Good God! I mean,
Man, I've got a... Yeah.
do you go to the shops on it?
Yeah, of course I do.
Right.
Because I've got a good old boot under the seat.
Right,
I can
right.
fit a week's shopping under the seat. And it's a thing of beauty.
Well, I mean, I'll give you that it does look kind of good, but I just wonder about,
Begrudgingly.
is that really what you want to do with motorbikes?
Yeah, it is.
Really? They're just
Oh,
like
this
ride
motorbike,
around
this
on
motorbike.
gay looking. It
Yeah.
doesn't look gay. It looks like a sort of something a 17-year-old would do to a motorbike.
Well, there you go. 17, 65. What's the difference?
So you got any other motorbike projects coming up?
Yeah, I'm going to get something built over the next few months.
Okay.
I'm going to build a shop.
A chopper.
Yeah.
Like sort of easy rider.
maybe not quite like that.
Not
Nigel.
quite. A bit higher. The
No,
bars are going to
no,
be a bit higher.
no. Not that fucking old school.
Yeah.
But that's my plan. That's my
Okay.
plan.
And then what are you gonna? Because you've done this a lot, right? I know that
Yeah.
we've had a chat, up in the balcony before the podcast, having a cigarette and all that. That you've always chopped up cars and motorbikes. Land Rovers being your main thing, as we learned last week.
I could never leave anything standard.
That's why you came to Bali, wasn't it? The women. You couldn't leave them standing, you dirty fucker. You're like the Bill Grundy of Bali now, are you?
No!
Dirty fucker. No, you're a married man.
I am.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But you mentioned that you're going to do some sort of fixed frame thing, which
Rigid frame.
rigid frame. That means no suspension, right?
No suspension. Hardtail.
And for the viewers out there who are not in Bali, Balinese roads are a little occasionally
shit.
little challenging. You
Yeah.
know, they're not
Yeah.
entirely shit, but they are well used. Put it that way. And after the rains, a couple of big rains, there's a few big potholes. So how are you going to kind of cope with
I will
that
choose,
at your
I will-
age?
I will choose my route.
Well, yes.
So
Back to women in Bali again. You'll be rooting in Bali.
I was talking ROUT.
I see, right. Rooting in Bali with Ian Wallace. It'll be the next podcast.
That'll be another thing.
Once I'm gone and done, that'll be it. Ian Wallace, rooting in Bali, yeah. I'm going to be rooting around on my rigid frame. You dirty fucker. I thought I was a dirty one with Rolf Harris,
No.
back my car.
No, that's terrible.
That is terrible. Isn't it?
So yes. So what else?
Oh, what else? So, motorbikes. I've noticed that people do like us talking about motorbikes, and especially my incredibly deep understanding of
Push maxis.
Yes, push maxis and stuff. But I do have a motorcycling story and a celebrity sort of mixed together, so we could maybe talk about that. But there was a time also when I had to interview. This was in Bali, and I spoke to that bloke. What was his name? He was with that Ewan McGregor boy, and he did.
Ian McGregor?
No, not Ian. Ewan McGregor, and he did that. They went across Africa, didn't they? With
they went the long way.
And what was the other bloke's
long
name?
way down.
Long way up, long way down.
Yeah, Charlie
Borman.
Yeah.
Borman, yeah.
Yeah.
So I had to interview him by phone. And in the same week, I'd also interviewed Eddie Izzard, bizarrely.
Right.
But anyway, so Charlie Borman was interesting. It was a very nice chat with him on the phone. He talked about, because he was in Bali or something, we used to get round him up for the Act magazine, we'd round him up. And so I had a good chat with him, and why are you in Bali, and what do you love about Bali, and what have you been up to? And he's just done this thing with Ewan McGregor, where they got on these 400 twins, or whatever the fuck you call them, and gone across
I think it was
Sahara.
GS 1200.
Whatever they were, motorbikes.
Bikes.
Big bikes.
Yeah.
And so he sort of reluctantly spoke to me. And I interviewed him. He had a very interesting history, of course.
Right.
Because he wasn't there by chance with Ewan McGregor.
Well, no, it didn't just
fucking
happen,
Darth
but-
Vader,
Yeah.
whatever he was.
Yeah.
It wasn't Darth Vader, but whatever he was. Luke Skywalker.
Was he?
And he was Luke Skywalker, wasn't he?
Was he?
So he'd reached the pinnacle. Ewan McGregor
I don't know.
was Luke Skywalker. So he'd reached... Anyway, he'd gone across Africa or Everest or wherever the fuck he was
I
going.
never watched Blake 7.
Wasn't on Blake. I do know a bloke that was on Blake 7.
Do you?
Lives in Bali.
Really?
Yeah, Martin East, yeah.
Fuck.
He was in Blake 7, yeah, for several episodes. But anyway, Charlie Borman, let me tell you a story. So this guy, his dad had been as a producer, I think a famous producer, and had been and produced a whole bunch of great movies. And therefore, he'd grown up, man, with some of Hollywood's absolute legends.
Yeah, that's what
as
I'm
his
saying.
as his uncles.
Yeah.
And he said, for instance, my godfather was Lee Marvin.
What the fuck?
What the fuck? I mean, what the fuck? Imagine
Wow.
picking a godfather. Like,
Yeah.
if
I was
you'd-
born under a wandering goat.
Imagine
starved.
picking, like, if you say, okay, Ian, I want you to pick who your godfather,
Yeah.
is. Who would you pick? Like,
Yeah.
I don't know. Who would you pick?
I'd pick you, Nigel.
Oh, of course you would. Pick Bruce Lee, or you pick like, John Wayne, or Robbie Williams. No, he's too young, but So this guy, yeah, his godfather was Lee fucking Marvin, and
Right.
we might have there's a picture of Lee Marvin there. Fantastic guy. He was a rangy, cool motherfucker.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So that was his...
That's his godfather.
That's his godfather, you know. So I didn't know what to say after that. I mean, I was like, oh, okay, great.
Yeah,
okay,
thanks
thanks
for
your time. Yeah, I'll just fucking get my coat now and fuck off. You know, because my godfather, I don't even know who my godfather was. Also, talking about godfathers, I had a message today from a very good friend of mine, Ariel Levy, who's a brilliant writer. Mm-hmm. Has written a book. I wish I had a copy of it for you guys to see. It was a book about, and I forget the name, tragically, it's about a mother and how she grew up. Her mother was a very famous poet. She grew up in New York.
Right.
And dad was in, I think, the UN and stuff, but grew up with all of the contemporaries of that time because her mother, I think, was from, you know, the theatre world and what have you. So, you know, she was just a Gloria, Jane Fonda and Gloria Steinem. They'd just be around the flat. Anyway, she had this bizarre kind of privileged but also deeply disturbed upbringing in New York's life in the 70s, I guess, and with crazy famous mum.
Yeah.
But she sent me a piece today after I sent her the podcast. She sent me a piece. Oh, I've just written this for Esquire, and it was a profile of Gloria Steinem.
Right.
You know, famously the feminist campaigner, and I read the story, and I said to her, and I texted back, it's incredible. Your writing's so good. It reminds me of Norman Mailer.
Right.
And she texted back, yes, he was my godfather.
What the fuck? Wow.
Let's get to the story of the other famous person we know, Big George, and the time he fought his way up that hill at Appleby Fair to beat the Chief Pikey, only to get his balls blown off by a shotgun. What do you reckon?
Well, yeah, but we ain't got time.
Oh, well.